goal is to bring you your next favorite band.
Sweet, that intro is my new favorite band. That's phenomenal. I'm so excited to be on.
Yeah. I heard a rumor that you might be able to play that song live today.
You heard correctly. Yes.
So
Good enough for rocking.
I don't know when I rock out here on your next favorite band and show.
and listen, it's going to be everybody's favorite band. Like
Phil, you weren't supposed to make me get all... God almighty,
But this
Phil.
is why we do it.
Like, seriously. I gotta gather myself. All right, go ahead.
Okay.
That was beautiful.
Welcome to your next favorite band. That's both the show title and our promise to you. We here at Stereophilia Studio are tireless in our pursuit of finding incredible, genre-defiant artists who are either a hot, up-and-coming band or a group that has been delivering for years but have flown under the radar.
Tonight, we have rootsy bluegrass with a busking spirit served with a little punch, attitude, grit, and gravy. It's Damn Tall Buildings.
Each month, we will bring you live streams, audio podcasts, and perhaps even a live concert where you can listen to the stories and hear the music of artists personally curated by us based on what we feel will be worthy of your time. Be sure to subscribe and tune in to each episode because the possibilities are endless and you never know who will be
Your next favorite band.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Philip Reese.
And I'm your co-host, Jeff Wentz.
And you are listening to...
Your next favorite band.
Yes. Yes, thank you so much. Co-host Jeff Wentz, everybody.
Glad to be here.
Coming to you from beautiful downtown near Dallas.
Yes, North Dallas.
North Dallas.
Prospering and prosper.
And it's funny, like, there's abilities to look into the statistics on the show, more from the podcast downloads than the views on YouTube. I mean, I'm sure you could get into it, but the podcast stuff just kind of spoon feeds it to you. And there are little areas of the country where you can see like consistent downloads. And so Texas has a pretty good, decent representation because of your, your interest. But then like, I think the fourth or fifth largest download city is Singapore. So thank you, Singapore. Please send us a message. Tell us what you're liking. But come on, rest of United States.
I don't know. Would that be good morning? What do we say then? Like I don't know what time it is.
It's a good question. I think it also probably we would need a Google Translate moment to put it in the proper language. But no, it's been neat. I mean, just kind of see the different areas of where people might be subscribing. It's pretty cool.
Very cool.
So yeah, thank you all. And if you're interested, if you're tuned in tonight, maybe for the first time because you're a fan of Damn Tall Buildings, or Jeff Wentz for that matter, would love to have you subscribe. Either YouTube if you like the video version, or the podcast audio version is available on just about every platform. So would love that. And we also love to hear feedback too. So like if there's a band you recommend to be our next favorite, we would love to hear that as well. But tonight, like we said, we have Damn Tall Buildings, which came from us through the probably 3 out of 4 times conduit of Musikfest, which you were a festival rookie, which even wore a T-shirt that had that on it, which was hilariously amazing. And when we walked around that first day that you wore that, so many people were like giving you such compliments and wondering where you got it.
So we needed to have a booth next time where we just sell them.
Yeah, no, I mean it is something that Musikfest should grab onto. Like we even thought, I think they have one that's like a onesie that says like Fester in training. And that's funny. But then there are adults who come for the first time and they need that festival rookie T-shirt.
We could have those T-shirts that like our kids had when they were in preschool that had like that dry erase section on it.
Yes.
So like each year they could come by and we could with a dry erase marker, write whatever year it was of their festival. So
Yes, no, that would work. That would certainly work. But yeah, if you don't mind, you had heard me talk about Musikfest for a number of years, and then when you came for the first time, from what I understood, not to put words in your mouth, but it kind of exceeded expectations.
oh yeah, it absolutely did. I mean, obviously being from Pennsylvania and growing up in Pittsburgh, getting back home is always nice. So hearing and obviously living outside of Philadelphia for a while as well.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
But hearing that you describe that festival and just how many bands and how long, how many days it was, the fact that it was free also
Right.
was a shock. I mean, even now when I describe it to people, like, wait a minute, it's free. I'm like, well, there are some, you know,
Yeah,
larger
there's one
performances that
headliner a night.
headliner, yeah, that you could pay tickets for. I said, but for the rest of the time, you're wandering around town, going from various stages, listening to music. I said, just the whole town turns into this giant festival. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
and
and I
and
always like to point out too, safe, clean, it doesn't
yeah,
like
absolutely.
smell bad. There aren't people like sleeping in
No,
tents. Pretty much by like 11 or 12 every night, everyone's gone, heads home, and we'll see you again the next day.
yeah, it does not, and I don't mean this in a bad way. It does not feel like a music festival in the sense of that where everyone's
Right.
in campers and tents in parking lots, and you're wandering around in a empty airfield
Right.
listening to music.
Right. In a
It's
drunken
you're
high
in
stupor. Yeah.
town. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's stages throughout town and back streets and center streets and uh, open field areas. I mean, it's just really kind of a neat environment. Great backdrops on some of the
Yep.
stages.
Hmm.
It was a great experience.
Oh, so cool. And hopefully you can come again this year. The lineup should be getting announced. Usually it's like late May. Sometimes it's early May. You start to hear the bands, but you don't know what days and times until late May, June. It starts to take some shape. Um,
Yeah.
but then it's at least if you start seeing the list, you can start to do the research, which is again where this particular band that we had the opportunity to learn about, hear them perform, and then get the chance to talk to them at the festival. It's a very accessible festival from that regard. So if you are a huge fan of someone or want to talk with them after you hear a set, they're usually right there at the merch table or very accessible, and that's one of the cool things about it as well. But basically, May a year ago, as you know, we build a playlist of it, like basically 2 songs per band plays original music on the live stages. And so we put that together. It's often over 20, sometimes 25 hours long. But the beauty of it is you're able to get a flavor of which stages you want to kind of go check out. And this particular band, Damn Tall Buildings, was pretty much one of the higher ones that I wanted to check out because it just sounded so good. And then again, they exceeded expectations. They more than delivered. They were definitely my favorite find of Musikfest 2024.
Do you recall what 2 songs? You said it was 2 songs you probably put on the
Yes.
song list. Do you recall which 2 they were?
So the first one was "What a Nice Life," which is the one we're going to play here in a
Okay.
couple seconds. The other one doesn't. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I mean, I've always told you that I think that's probably one of the coolest things that Next Favorite Band does is put that list together. Because for somebody like me who's really not familiar with the various bands, that are that may be from that area, because there was a lot of area bands that do come to the festival. There's a lot of bands that are not from the area that come to the
Sure.
festival, but to get an idea of who are these bands, these musicians, what type of music do they play, and what would I be interested in. I've told you before, I've gone several road trips, starting my road trip by starting that song, that playlist, and listening to it in the car for 10 hours straight or so, trying to
Sure.
figure out what bands, and kind of trying to make a mental note of which ones I was interested in.
Yeah, and then that paired with the Musikfest app, which is just such a great way to
Yeah.
like tap which ones you want to go see
Mhm.
or listen to a second time. I just looked it up. The other song was "Green Grass and Wine," which was a very cool song. Yeah. And so talked with the band at the event. Here's the interesting part. They were going to be performing twice the day that they were on the lineup, 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock. And caught the 3 o'clock one, thank goodness, because by about 5:30 the heavens opened and it poured for about 2 straight hours, maybe longer, and everything up and until about 8 o'clock got canceled. Then it picked back up again in the late evening, but their 7 o'clock set got canceled, unfortunately. And I said this, and again, it makes sense. I felt like they were keeping something in reserve because, again, you're playing twice and you don't necessarily want to play the same set twice. A couple of songs you'll probably repeat. So their set at 3 o'clock was tremendous. But I could tell they were probably going to be even a little bit more ramped up and special for the 7 o'clock performance. And then it got taken away from all of us. So it was super sad. But even with that, it was still the band that I felt was like my favorite discovery of that whole festival.
Sorry, I missed it. It would have been fun too. I know you like those moments of where you see a band for the first time and just hit you the right way.
Totally,
like,
totally.
I
Yes,
talk to these guys.
that's what you live for. Again, when it's free and you can walk around and try everything, it's like that's what you're looking for. It's like, wow, that's somebody. And then again, like you're like, wow, not only do I love that music, but maybe they'd be willing to be kind enough to come on the show, which. Max, Sasha, and Avery were. Avery was the fiddle player, and he's the only one who actually was able to make it work for that particular day. But they've been together for over 10 years and went to college together. So like he knew enough to kind of tell the full story. I'd still love to have, an opportunity to speak to the others. But this was neat because he does some solo stuff that we were able to dive into a little bit of that element of his catalog. As well. So that was pretty cool. But before we get into the music, we're going to share the sponsorship we have with BetterHelp, and then we'll get to some Damn Tall Buildings music, a bio, and then on to the interview. So here, check this out. Hey, music lovers. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to tell you about our sponsor, BetterHelp. More and more mental health topics of depression, anxiety, addiction, and more are coming up in our interviews with artists and musicians who are brave enough to share them and the music that came out of the journey. Those songs may even help us feel a little bit less alone as we work through the same struggles, but at the end of the day, we need more than just a great song. We need therapy, and that's where BetterHelp can assist. BetterHelp connects you with a therapist who can help you find your path. Instead of being stuck in the endless loop of questioning yourself, you can talk through questions, concerns, with someone who's trained to help you find real answers. As you know, our Listen to the Dissonance shows help to create a safe space for vulnerable conversations, but not everywhere can feel that way. Since BetterHelp is accessed via their app, you can explore your options and conduct your sessions in the comfort of your own home or wherever you feel is best for you. After you download the app, you'll get started by filling out a questionnaire and get matched with a therapist in as little as a couple of days. And if that's not feeling right, you can easily switch to a different therapist at any time at no extra cost. They carefully make sure the therapists on the platform are well qualified and their customer support team is there to help you with any questions. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform that you can trust. We at Your Next Favorite Band believe in breaking the stigma around mental health, and going to therapy is a sign of strength, not weakness. And with BetterHelp, it's easier than ever to take that first step towards feeling better. Click the link here or go to betterhelp.com/nextfaveband and you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy. That's betterhelp.com/nextfaveband. It's okay to ask for help. Contact BetterHelp today.
Life we once had. Moon hit the sun, life for living's been a drag. Oh, but just like a feeling there it hung. A fractured clip, a grain of piss blowing air back in your lungs. Heard you out there singing, can't be sure. Well, I heard the breath breathing brought you back to where you were, where that cool breeze blowing kept you high. Sunshine, little shimmer in your eye. Not sure who I've been lately. Pretty sure your mother hates me.
If you like your bluegrass served with a little punch, attitude, grit, and gravy with that busking spirit, that was so present and palpable in the early incarnations of Old Crow Medicine Show and made you realize that string band music could be so much more than fuddy-duddy reenactments by crusty old relics, then Damn Tall Buildings will slide in nice as a welcome addition to your listening rotation. Bluegrass at heart, but pulling from a wide range of influences, including swing, ragtime, jazz, and even a hint of contemporary perspective on songwriting, they often offer virtually unmatched energy and enthusiasm, underpinned by intelligent songs that don't skimp on infectiousness. We'll bring this back up, and we'll get to the interview.
Not sure who I've been lately, but holy shit can barely stand me.
There you heard What a Nice Life by Damn Tall Buildings. We're going to get into a little bit of kind of what the recording of your music sounds like versus the live stuff a little bit later on. But want to be just simply introducing here. Thank you so much for joining us, Avery Ballotta.
Thank you very much for having me.
Fiddler.
Yep, fiddler. Yep.
Amongst many other things. Again, we'll get into all of this. But from Damn Tall Buildings, thank you for spending a lovely afternoon with me. We are here in Lula May.
Yeah.
In, what would this be, Clinton Hill?
Yeah.
I think it's Clinton Hill, Brooklyn.
Yeah, Brooklyn.
We were, I'm dropping my daughters back off at Pratt. I got my Pratt swag on.
Represent.
That's right. And you live nearby. Like,
I do, like a
Damn
mile
Tall Buildings
away.
Is a Brooklyn-based band.
That's right.
I find it always funny that there's that, like, just people always almost snicker or giggle about, you're bringing up this music out of Brooklyn, but who really I mean, it never threw me off, but, like, I guess it throws a lot of people.
It can, like, preconceptions are funny that way.
Right. And I guess the little bit of things that people might not really realize is you're from Montana.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, I am, and Max is from New Hampshire, and Sasha's from Philadelphia.
Yeah. So it's with the music, and we always talk about, you hear it in our opening, we talk about being genre defiant. So we don't really care about this, but I just thought it might be interesting. Like, it's not really bluegrass. Like, that's the label that a lot of people affix it, probably because it's the closest
Sounds
one.
like it sometimes, yeah.
And I've heard roots. I guess I can hear that too.
Sure, yeah.
But rootsy bluegrass, I don't know. Where would you put it? Like, where, like...
It's always a funny question because we love playing the classics. We love playing Bill Monroe and Stanley Brothers and all that.
And from a bluegrass standpoint, I think it's important to point out, like, being around one microphone is very bluegrass.
Very traditionally.
The instruments are very bluegrass.
Yep, totally.
But sonically, not on the nose.
I think we all come from a lot of different musical backgrounds, which seeps into what we do now.
Sure.
And then we're also writing a lot of original stuff, and we perform a lot of that, like you were saying, the recorded versus live stuff.
Yep.
So that's always a big part of kind of doesn't overshadow, but it definitely like feeds into the "what are we" kind of question. Like it's like singer-songwriter as a genre is not necessarily.
Doesn't do a lot of defining.
Yeah, exactly.
You sing and you songwrite.
Technically, it's true.
Right. Try to argue with it.
Right. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, there are elements of, like punk, which is more of a vibe than a sound. Like, I just think that it's kind of like everything in there, and the closest thing is bluegrass. So that's what people latch on to.
I appreciate that. I think that that's a great description of it. Closest I've gotten, I think.
Yeah. So we're definitely going to, obviously, what we do on this show is always go back, and we love to go into the backstories of each individual. You're the one that honored us by coming here, so we're going to spend much more time on your story, but we are going to touch on, I feel like it's okay, you probably have Max and Sasha's proxy to answer some of their backstory.
Yes, the blank piece of paper they signed at the beginning of the band.
Right. That gives you carte blanche
It
to
falls
say,
under, yeah,
we can actually
exactly.
make up whatever
Yeah.
bio we want about them.
Yeah.
I could say stuff, you could nod, and
That's right.
it's
yeah.
on, it's
yeah,
on
I'll
them.
Just nod or shake. Yeah.
But then we'll get into damn tall buildings, of course.
Cool.
But so we're going to start with you, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
You even sometimes have the nickname Montana.
Yeah, with them primarily.
Yeah.
Because that's how we got introduced.
Right.
Our good buddy.
Does that carry from college? Because all three of you met in college.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
figured.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Someone learns that you're from Montana and they're
Yeah,
from New England.
exactly.
And you go to school in New England. That probably feels like, to Max, like a foreign country.
Yeah, definitely back then. Yeah.
Right.
And I think it was our buddy Paul Scroy, who's a great guitarist down in
Yeah.
Nashville now, but he's the one that coined that and caught on.
That's right. And when you're from there, it's like, well, I guess I
I'm
got
2,000
nothing.
miles away. Why not? Yeah.
Montana, beautiful
Yeah,
state.
absolutely.
Like, called Big Sky for a good reason.
Yeah.
You're particularly from Bozeman. Mm-hmm. And
Yep.
I've not been there. I've been to Missoula, up through
Nice.
Kalispell.
Beautiful.
And then actually drove to that extremely narrow portion of Idaho,
Mm-hmm.
which was like Sandpoint, I think is what it was. And a beautiful lake community that was there.
Yes, absolutely.
I
There's a lot of great
I went
lakes
there
around
on business, believe it or not. But I was like, I can't wait to come back here on my own time. Like,
Absolutely.
What an awesome part of the country.
It is stunning. It's the kind
Yeah.
of thing that will remind you of Earth's grandeurs.
Sure.
You know?
Anytime I go out, whether it's hiking in Utah or like that kind of thing, you end up feeling small in a very, very cool way. Like wow, I am like literally nothing.
Yeah, in a comforting way. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's all still working. I'm a
Yep.
piece of it, but a very small one. Anyway,
Absolutely.
it's a very humbling and important thing to learn.
Yeah.
But so anyway, so you're growing up in Bozeman. Your mother is a singer. And so like you have music in your life at a young age.
Definitely.
And she even encourages you to take up the violin.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She used to talk about how she would play the violin in elementary school growing up, and was there, and then went on to sing in choirs and do some touring and stuff. So I think those stories definitely instilled in me an interest, a curiosity piqued, and then so around I was 9, and we went to this we used instrument swap.
Love this story.
At the high school, and I found this fiddle that fit me, and
You said it's a half-sized
it's
fiddle?
a half-size fiddle, and I
And is that made for kids or just small hands or?
kids mostly,
Yeah.
It's small of stature, kind of. It really is based a lot on like how it fits in your natural positioning of your arm.
Yeah.
So there's different measuring techniques.
What I love about the story though is like you almost speak to it as like it called to you, or the aesthetics of it just purely made you want to own it.
Absolutely, something
or partner
about
with it even. Like
Yeah.
you speak about it in a way that's like it's like you are in a relationship.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. yeah. We're in it together. It's not one or the other of us.
Yeah,
For
but I
sure.
mean, what a like respect for. Okay, we're gonna go out and do this together. Like
Yeah.
I think that's such a neat way to view it.
Yeah, it is always a beautiful thing. Kind of like that the smallness, that comforting smallness.
Sure.
It's like realizing that like you don't have to be alone. You could be just your part. And then like any additives add their part.
Right.
Like so for the fiddle and I, like we've been together for so long that it definitely is a very honest and open communication kind of thing.
Yeah. It's amazing. And I heard I love this. You have a definition of, because I'm sure a lot of people are curious, the definition of what's the difference between a violin and a fiddle.
Right, yeah. The difference between a violin and a fiddle, my favorite definition of it is that you can spill beer on a fiddle.
That does everything, all the explaining I need.
Absolutely, yeah. It changes the tone in some way.
And by that, yours is a fiddle.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Fantastic.
By and large.
Yes, yeah. So also in that same time frame, I hear that you found a teacher.
Yes, right.
And
at
they
that
were
same instrument swap. Actually,
wow.
They were
So
selling
it was in
the
that
fiddle.
same moment.
Yeah, her name's Teresa Sierra Hall now. She's still teaching music.
Love it.
In Michigan, I believe, in the Midwest. And yeah, huge impact on my learning experience. And she grew up a competition fiddler in Texas, like Texas fiddler. I think she grew up in Utah, but nonetheless, she taught me a lot about, because she was also teaching elementary and middle school orchestra, so taught me a lot about reading music as well as fiddling. Mm-hmm. But I learned a lot of the fiddle tunes that I know by reading first, just because I was working on that.
Sure.
The mechanics of that.
Right.
And but I've always been really interested in writing. Like my second lesson ever with Teresa, I remember playing through what my homework was for that week, and then I finished it, and she was like, "Great, good job," and I was, "Thank you." It's like, all right, well, now I want to, like, when do I get to write my own music?
Oh, fun.
And she was like, as soon as you can, basically. It was very sweet. Yeah, I felt from a very early on ushered into that, like, well, yeah, if you want to, you can.
Right.
Thing, so
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Actually, let's jump to that. So
Sure.
I know you wrote things in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were already writing stuff for the orchestra that you were playing in.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little bit here that I wanted you to touch on about that, but also you were homeschooled, and so you were studying in the morning at your like at the breakfast table or whatever, like all morning. But then you would be able to go off to the music programs and such that were in the school district.
Yes.
In the afternoon.
Yep.
So talk about that, because that's obviously like it's a formative age.
Yeah.
To then go from whether it's you and your siblings to then now all this other people
Right.
that you're somewhat meeting, not for the first time, but for the first time you're really
building
like,
social groups
Yeah.
and connections and relationships and seeing how everyone else interacts with their instruments or their each other, whatever. And it was really good. I definitely I started going part-time for orchestra in 6th grade, and then did orchestra all through middle school. And then high school was more of the I was in 2 orchestras, and I was playing in a string quartet with high school friends of mine,
Right.
and then that's where I got into like music theory.
Sure.
And I had a great teacher, Eugene Merriman, who was awesome, and really opened my eyes to how fun theory could be. And that I definitely count that as a kind of a pouring fuel on the fire towards more compositional stuff.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Well, I guess like you even wrote for a ballet, and I just wonder, like, when I was 15 or around that age, let alone being aware of music, but also then to be able to write my own for a ballet. I mean, you could understand writing something for pop music or whatever, but to put together an entire score for a ballet that's massively impressive.
Thank you.
I feel like that's like, again, like finding that violin and finding this path in life. Like this is what you were destined to do for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I keep getting reminded of that. So I'm doing my best, But I definitely, I was a competitive gymnast also growing
Sure,
up. So
right.
that was my tie to the ballet, actually.
Yeah,
So that
that's
was what
fascinating.
introduced me to that. As they, one year were looking for, Montana Ballet Company was looking for a gymnast to dance the Russian dance in the Nutcracker.
Oh, okay.
So that was what really got me in there.
That's awesome.
And then, but I've always loved, again, growing up in the classical world, largely, and having a propensity for composition, I definitely nerded out about a lot of different composers and a lot of like Tchaikovsky and Shostakovich and all these guys who really were able to bring a lot of really interesting things to the dance world.
Sure.
Always fascinated me.
Yeah.
And it
No,
excited
totally.
me. So yeah. But
That's super cool.
yeah.
Is there something about, like, again, those ages are where you're also like starting to recognize who you're attracted to and all that kind of
Sure.
stuff, like,
Yeah.
and to go from homeschooling to that, I gotta think there's an element to that too where you're like, whoa, like it's just unlocking something in a lot of different ways, and then to find success, whether it was music or the gymnast or whatever, like it's just like that's got to be such a really, again, awesome time as a early teenager.
Absolutely. I think the biggest tie to being homeschooled during that time, at the same time of having all these incredible social experiences, was that they weren't tied to like, oh, these are my school friends, or like, You know, like there's this separation was not there for me as far as life and like our friend groups being like having to be kept separate or whatever. Like, you know, normal kind of like growing up teenage things that are like cliques or natural, you know. And of course, can't avoid it, but in my own life, I definitely have always felt somewhat of a free agent socially. That comes down to this.
I could see that too, because those worlds of athletics and gymnast versus music are some of those cliques where there not many people navigate both.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Let alone others, you know, like
you
know, socially nerdy, whatever. But that's cool. So now we're heading into college. You go to Montana State,
right?
And you decide to study music technology,
right?
So, what is music technology?
Okay, so music technology, definitely in that degree path, was learning a lot about, so this is 2009, so this is like just as the home studio kind of vibe is starting to kind of turn over into the mainstream of like what is we're capable of as like amateur creators, you know, and bringing a lot of that like very sought after gear into the box as we call it. And
in the biz
and then this was also focused on like understanding acoustics and wave forms and like how sound works in an electrical field, and like understanding like what is actually happening with like the diaphragm of a microphone.
Got it.
You know, like in tandem with like DAW and, you know, synthesis stuff on the computer, and then also some outboard hardware stuff,
right?
And studio time, and so everything from recording to like creating, like, you know, mock things, whatever, and or be like, use this sound and like only use this recorded poem and make a song out of it. You know, it's like, okay, well, how do we do that? Like, do we want it to be musical? And then it starts opening your mind musically, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So I'd say that music technology, by and large, is just kind of like the simultaneously one of the funnest and coolest things, and also consistently frustrating as any technology is.
And the other reason why you were headed down this path was at this moment you had so much joy in composing, you thought you were going down that path.
Totally.
Yeah.
I chose that path because my goal from like 14-ish was to write for film.
Yeah.
So
did you end up ever writing something for film?
I have, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. A couple times, and one of them that was released and put into some festivals and stuff a couple of years ago, so that was really nice. And so I have gotten to do that, but it's hilarious because like from MSU and studying music technology, going to Berkeley then, and like finding my way into a film scoring track at Berkeley was, you know, hilariously my step into what I do now, which is play the fiddle.
Which you needed to do. So Berkeley is a performing school, so you had to audition to get in, even for the track you were hoping to get.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you had to re-embrace that instrument.
I did, yeah, and that's the interesting thing is that I had been playing the violin through my MSU days, and then I took a year off. I put it down for a year, and then picked it back up. And a lot of the like stress, I was carrying a lot of tension in my body. Is really what was happening to make me not want to do it anymore.
Sure.
And then that year off and focusing on composition was really great for me to be able to kind of like not only readjust my relationship with the fiddle, but also like my own body and like how I am being while doing these things that I love.
Yeah.
So then, getting to bring it back to Berkeley and do the audition. You know, I had this whole unaccompanied Bach sonata movement.
It's so great. I wanted you to tell this story.
Yeah, great.
Because also what I loved about hearing you say it was it had a lot to do with what you were just talking about. Was you need to be comfortable in your body in order to pull it off. And if you're tight, it ain't gonna work. So please keep going.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's really this is as some of them are. This is a movement where there's lots of like thirds and sixths and things that need to be in tune to sound good, basically.
Yeah, right, sure.
And if you're tense, it really starts kind of like making consistency with any of that nearly impossible.
And so this is a mini question.
Uh-huh.
If you're playing a fretless instrument,
Yeah.
and you're hearing it not be what it should be,
Yeah.
that's got to start to throw you off.
It can
as it progresses.
And I think that as you practice more of that kind of thing, you find yourself making like very quick micro adjustments to the tone or to the tune,
and that might even throw it more off.
It could, yeah. You could end up somewhere else, or you might be able to save it, or you might be. It's like it could be saving the pitch, but not necessarily where you're soloing or whatever.
Sure.
But so I ended up like being in the hall, waiting to go into the room to audition.
And you're 19?
I
20?
am 19.
Yeah,
I think.
So I mean, like, that's all I'm saying is like, well, wise beyond your years, but still in the moment, like to have this type of like inspiration to make such a wise decision.
Yeah, well, I'm glad it was wise ultimately. Because I would say that this is a good tie-in to the like getting quiet and listening. There's a lot of getting quiet and listening that happens in real music. You know, in like really good music, there is an ability to be able to just be in it. You know. And I think that was the feeling that kind of overcame me. And I was like, I was ill. I got in there and I can't remember what I had, but it was not great. I was not feeling good. And I was like, so I was already under the weather, and I was like, all right, well, it was one of those things where it's like, why not? Let me just do this. It's like, I'm already here. Let's see. And I ended up switching.
Like on the walk in?
On the walk through the door. Through the door. Like last 30 seconds, as I took a deep breath, I had the Bach on the music stand. I put it on there, and I said, I am going to, they open up with some like ear training stuff. They just kind of warm you up, it's nice. And I was in there with two dudes who were great, very nice, and then when it came time to play the piece, I was like, you know what, I'm actually gonna, I know I was gonna play Bach, but I am gonna play this tune, A Shokin Farewell, by Jay Unger, and
which is a gorgeous tune.
It's a phenomenal tune.
And if anybody has ever seen the Ken Burns Civil War series, that's the song. Absolutely. The one you think of when you hear that.
Exactly, yeah. And so I played it, I think twice through, once straight and once with a little embellishment, if I remember right. It's just so nice. There's so many different. So that's a good example too. There's plenty of thirds and sixths and whatnot that should be in tune on that one, but it was very easy to accomplish that.
Well, you had said something too, that it's been in your bones since the beginning. Like you feel way connected to that song.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would play it with my sibling all the time, and it's just there's a really like tranquility to it. In playing it, and then it went over really well, and they were very very kind, and one of the guys was just like, oh, that's cool. I was in the choir for the soundtrack recording to that documentary.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what? that's cool. Like, so that was fun, because that was kind of like oh wow, I really took a leap of faith here and just kind of like decided to do what felt right in my heart, and it ended up being like doubly good.
For sure.
And then but that's I love that story just because
that is great. Yeah. I mean, again, like you're talking about this like crossroads moment in your life.
Yeah.
And that is a massively important decision to make.
Yeah.
But you knew it. Like something in you knew it, and it was clearly the right call. Was there? So now you grew up in Montana through the first year or second year of college, and now you're transferring to the Northeast, to Boston, to the East Coast. What kind of, I don't know, culture shock or anything? Like, how did the transition go for you?
Definitely. The transition was It was good. It ultimately was very good. Like I said before, I feel like I'm a little bit of a free agent on the social side of things.
Mm-hmm.
I love people. So being surrounded by a lot more people all at once it's good for me.
Sure.
so I think that was really nice, and it's also overwhelming. Like, you have to kind of adjust.
Well, the style of person,
Right.
And what I've learned, because I've always lived in either New York or Pennsylvania,
Uh-huh.
but travel the country a fair bit for my job.
Yep.
And what I've noticed is how you show respect is wildly different.
Totally.
Because the reason why New York is the way it is they don't want to waste your time or theirs, so
Right.
that's why they just cut you off.
Right.
And they think they're being respectful and kind by being somewhat abrasive.
Yeah.
But it's like, why would I want to waste your time? I'm just telling you no right now. Stop
Yeah.
talking. We're moving on.
Exactly.
Whereas elsewhere in the country, you can't do it that way.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean is, like, there's got to be moments like that, or just like you felt like you were, a stranger in a strange land.
For sure, yeah. There's definitely some there was a learning curve in some of that, for sure. But I also really I think relate to it. My grandfather in particular was very quick wit,
Sure.
and would always joke about him and his best buddies giving each other a bad time. It's like
That's the very
That's
Northeast.
the very Northeast, yeah. So that's
That's the way I express my love for you.
Exactly.
I'm going to tell you how much of a knucklehead you
yeah, exactly. So I had that a little bit in me already, I think,
Nice.
and that. So that just kind of awoken in me when I was living in New England, and then now here, I love it. I love it here. I love the brevity.
Absolutely. No, right, and obviously you've moved into Brooklyn.
Yeah.
We can get to that in a second. But so now you're at Berkeley, one of the
Yeah.
finest institutions for music. We'll get into the fact that you actually meet Max and Sasha there.
Yeah.
But let's just stick with the fiddle. You train there with Bruce Molsky.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
get to learn a lot of these, I don't mean to say it this way, but old-timey fiddle tunes.
That is exactly. You can say it that way all
Good,
day
okay.
long.
I
Yeah,
just didn't
they
want that to
are-
come across the wrong way,
No,
but it's
no.
exactly, yeah.
They're old time fiddle tunes, and they really are largely passed down in the oral tradition.
That's so great.
So yeah, very few of them are.
So somewhat
actually
like the
written
blues,
down.
even.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Where it's just like, I'm going to play this, and then you're going to learn from me by watching or listening
Yeah.
or both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have one here. During your time at Musikfest,
Mm-hmm.
you played a song, I believe it's called Tom and Jerry. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you want to throw the headphones on.
Sure.
This way I'll let it play for a little bit, and then we can chat about it. But here's Tom and Jerry. So I will confess, I did hope that you were going to wear the cowboy hat today.
Oh, I should have.
But I knew I had it. So
Yeah, that's
I
good.
wasn't going to be some sort of, weirdo. Be
That's
like, by the way, can you wear
hilarious.
the cowboy hat?
Oh,
but so
funny.
this baseball hat that says cowboy hat
Yep.
is fantastic. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yep.
Tell us about the song. That's Tom and Jerry.
Sure. So I actually learned this one from my teacher Teresa, way back in the day.
Okay, cool.
And it's a Texas fiddle tune.
Yep.
I've just played it to varying levels of success over many decades now, and it's so fun to do in the set these days.
Right.
Just because and this y'all in this audience.
Yep.
Some of the best rhythm. And Max just broke a string. I see.
Well, so I was going to talk. I'm going to bring that. I'm going to play it one more time. Wait till you see.
That's great.
Yeah. But yeah, the Musikfest crowd is insanely. I don't know what the right way to put it, because they know their music, they
Yeah.
love listening to it. It's a wide range of ages.
Yep.
But they also just love performers. So they're not some sort of snobby kind of listener. They're
Yeah.
just loving everything that comes to the town. And that
Totally.
week. Also, I want to point out, you're one of the most fun people to watch
No.
perform. Just so active, and it's just such a great song. But yeah, awesome just to watch you all, that joy, but also just, again, you're probably from the combination of music and gymnast.
Yep.
There's this great, energy, chaotic energy to you playing.
Yeah.
Chaos doesn't do it the right justice. But here, watch this. In the very beginning of the song,
Yeah.
watch, he goes off screen slightly, but watch what happens to his guitar. You can see that he's looking down at it, Max, that is.
Yep.
And you can see it broke already. And he just
Oh.
wants it out of his way. So watch, just as a beast, he rips it right out of the way, throws it,
and then comes back in, and now it's just dangling the rest of the time. But it is kind of
very
fun.
classic. That's a Max Capistrand signature move.
But yeah, and it's just got to be interesting too. Like now you're like, okay, I got 5 strings now,
Right.
Instead of 6. But
Totally.
it's an interesting one. But I when I was watching it back for the purpose of research, I was like, oh my gosh, he busted that string. And just was like, get
Right
out
out
of
the
here.
gate, yeah.
Like it just. But yeah,
There's
so
that brevity again. No wasting time.
no, gotta keep going. But yeah, the Musikfest festival. We talked about it a little bit, when we first connected here today. You played at 3 p.m. and had another set at 7, and unfortunately got rained out. So Bethlehem is like still anxious to hear a damn tall building set, because I don't know if this is true, and I'm sure there's something to it, but like I felt like that was your appetizer, and there was going to be something more special for the evening, because you had to be saving up some of your energy. You're like, shit, I got to play again later today. It wasn't like it was missing something.
Right.
It just felt like it was like, okay, here's a really good taste of what we're capable of. Make sure you come back at 7.
Yeah, that's often the case. Anytime we have 2 sets in a day, you gotta budget that energy.
Of course.
Sure. But yeah, well, it's funny that it felt that way.
Yeah. And like I said, it wasn't like I thought it was missing something.
Right.
If you only knew about that one, you would have been totally fine. But I knew there was another one coming later, and I was like, I think they're holding something in the tank here, in a good way. And I couldn't wait to see it, and then the rain ruined it.
I know.
It was a downpour and thunder and lightning. But
Yeah.
anyway,
we'll get back.
Yes,
We'll come back.
Yeah. Awesome. I would love that. So you also play, because we'll go back to Berkeley in a second.
Sure. Yeah.
But for your own personal journey. More than just a fiddle. You also play banjo and bass and many other instruments. And so banjo is a fascinating one. You actually have out there, we'll link to it, something called Meditations?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just these instrumental banjo tunes.
Yep.
Which are super awesome. Like great for like wake up in the morning, pour a cup of coffee, sit by, just read the paper or something like that. Just really, really cool stuff. And you had said more will be coming.
Yeah.
But I wanted to just hear your take on like that kind of like step over there, because it's obviously a wildly different instrument.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. My love for the banjo has definitely come from our original banjo player, Jordan Alleman.
Yeah.
Who, he's one of the funnest banjo players to play with, period.
Awesome.
It's so fun. A great musician. And we would always hang out and play tunes and stuff. But he was one of the first people to show me how to frail and do the clawhammer style.
Sure.
Which is an old time technique. So then I also had the privilege of getting like a couple one-off lessons with Bruce on the banjo, he's also a killer banjo
awesome.
player, and then Tony Trishka has helped me out once or twice, which has been nice, and then from there I didn't have a banjo for a long time, and then after moving to Brooklyn, a couple of my friends got me one as a gift, and I've been playing it ever since. And a lot of those tunes, the meditation tunes in particular, those two, that's like an A-B kind of thing, came from that time in the morning of
great.
having just made the coffee and just sitting in the sun playing the banjo.
There must have been something about it that I connected with in that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there was a difference. So like, obviously, it wasn't the first time you were playing a fretted instrument.
Sure.
But the fiddle isn't, and this one is.
Yeah.
Where did that put you as a musician? Like, were you ever like angry with the fret, going, "No, let me go"?
Yeah.
I gotta imagine there's moments where it's just like, "Stop thinking for me."
Totally, yeah. There's definitely some of that, and then you start also finding ways to mess with the bend or the how the strings are interacting. I think that's another thing that I will say that the drone aspect, there's a lot of and when I say that, there's like one note that's consistent in a lot of the patterns in the banjo. So like you don't have to play the drone every time, but there is often a drone available.
Got it.
And as a bowed instrument player, I love drones. So I think for me, and that's probably why the collection's called Meditations, because it is so easy to kind of tap into that drone that's underneath and kind of around. The banjo, I think, is really special in the way that the tones surround whatever melody is being played in a way that other instruments just don't get at, which is really interesting. Anyway, yeah, it's just one of my favorite instruments. So a lot of it, to be perfectly frank, is just like hours and hours and hours on the couch, just like playing the same stuff.
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
that's so cool. So there's one other question I had about banjo. This gets into a section here where I had heard you say some quotes in some of my research that I really wanted to have you touch on because I thought they were like super fascinating commentary.
Sure.
So specific to the banjo and actually specific to being a gymnast, you had mentioned as a gymnast, you become very aware of gravity.
Yes.
And so like clearly, obviously, if you're, you know where gravity is because you might be twisting in the air.
Right.
You mentioned that the banjo involves microgravity.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know, because you didn't explore that much further, like I just wanted to know, like, where you were coming with that.
Absolutely. A lot of the, both the fiddle and the banjo have a lot to do with, and specifically rhythm and pulling the notes that you do want versus the notes that you don't want out of this ability to kind of merge with gravity, let it bounce, like the gymnast thing. You're finding yourself flipping or twisting and stuff. You're finding where your center of gravity lies at any given point because it's not always the same place in your body depending on where you are in the air.
Sure. Right.
So it's like the same or orientation of yourself. So it's the same kind of thing with the bow in particular on the fiddle or the banjo here. A lot of it is, or like chucking, chopping, which I learned from Daryl Anger, which was who's one of the grooviest fiddle players ever, and a lot of that, the microgravity comes from just understanding that like they're kind of like high frequencies, like it's just like a small wave form instead of like a trampoline bounce where you're feeling that whole big like bass level range of jumping. The microgravity is where that is like essentially like the pocket. You're feeling the groove. In the relationship to how it like moves in gravity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, like this is again like for someone who lives it and has been through it and learned how to master it. That's going to help a lot of other people kind of connect those dots. So I just, when I heard you say that and then it moved on, I was like, no.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
What the hell did you mean by that? So
the
fact that I could have you on, I was like, yeah, let's talk about it.
Heck yeah. Even more specifically, I think that it's the, like, thinking about it, gravity as the relation and your relationship to it is more so how the body is translating the groove.
Right.
And so like that, if you let it be, it's just like a dance.
Yeah.
So.
That's probably why you're so, you're kinetic as you play.
Help a move.
Yeah. That was more the term, not chaos, but kinetic was the way you play.
Totally.
So this ties to this too. I think it's in your bio on like Spotify where those meditations are found. If you scroll down and click on that, you have something in there where you're saying music is drawn from ancient tones, reaching right into the soul with vibrational communication and healing. Those are your words, not mine.
I appreciate you saying them.
So it took me a long time to reflect on that. So I wanted to maybe just hear what your personal, like, what you're attempting to communicate through those words that is somewhat a representation of the music you're playing.
I would say that the more and more I write and record and learn other people's music and play with great musicians, that I'm always astounded about how many versions of something can be real and realized, right? So when I talk about ancient tones, I'm talking about similar to the pocket or the groove, there's also like harmony and like just again that comes back to the waveforms. There's just this like stuff that we tap into and translate, right?
Yes.
So that is what I mean by that is that like no matter, like, a lot of my stuff is very like like my solo stuff is very towards the kind of droney or like you
Yeah.
know, you get into it.
Meditative.
Yeah, meditative
Yep.
for sure. And even like the rock stuff that I do is still kind of like a lot of chuggy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so that aspect of things definitely is very informative to what I think about when playing at all.
No, that's really, really cool. And I think that's also what then takes over a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
When those moments happen, and it happens at Music Fest all the time, happen during your set, where like, not just maybe the clapping or the dancing or the singing along, but even just the like-mindedness. Like,
Absolutely.
you get to just simply, I always talk about these like pure moments, and that's what I'm in search of, because once I found one, I was like, I gotta get more of these.
Yeah.
And it's where everyone goes quiet.
Yep.
No one's talking. No one's coughing.
Yeah.
They're just paying attention to the musician.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is beautiful, and I think it is these wavelengths and tones that happen
Yeah.
that somehow connects to something ancient, to use your phrase.
Yeah.
That just brings us together without words.
Yeah. Something that transcends something that we can think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get our minds out of it for a second, you know.
Yeah. It's super cool. I have even more, but we're going to move on
Yeah,
just
that's
because
all good. Yeah.
that's some amazing stuff. Thank you for touching on all
course.
of that.
Thanks
So we are
for
going to
asking.
roll back to Berkeley.
Sure.
You meet Max. So let's talk about Max for a second.
Yep.
You meet Max first.
I met
Or
Max
sorry.
first.
Yeah,
Met
I thought
Max
so.
first, yep.
So Max, like you said, Bedford, New Hampshire.
Yep.
When he was growing up, he loved Blink 182, wanted to be a drummer in a punk band,
Yeah. Yep.
but
That's
ended
true.
up with a guitar in his hand.
Yeah.
And somewhat annoyed by it, from what I understood. Like he's like, no, I want to be a drummer.
Yeah, absolutely.
But now the other music that he's kind of inspired by, and I think it does really. When I heard him say this, his songwriting matches this perfectly. He loves Modest Mouse, Bob Dylan, and Bob Marley. Mm-hmm. And I heard him talk
That's
about
true.
those three as
Yeah.
like this Mount Rushmore of his own. And if you think about the styles of those three musicians and mush them into this, you can see where his style comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. Very clever and melodically brilliant, in my opinion.
And dense in words.
A lot of words.
Lot of words.
You
It's
gotta have
almost
your
like
breath work up.
When he starts singing, it's like, well, turn his fire hose on of language,
Totally,
and then
yeah.
he turns it off.
Yeah.
But it's really, really amazing. So he went to Berkeley for songwriting.
Yes, he did.
And
Yeah.
so the funnest thing I heard him talk about, which we'll love to have a chat with him about this, is everybody writes a song out of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in a songwriting class and it's like, this is your assignment, followed by this one, followed by this one, it's almost like he had to turn off the emotions and get into the method or the mechanics of songwriting.
Right.
And it served him, but in the beginning I think he was annoyed by it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, as any creative will, as you start going into any sort of like deeper creative study, I think is always a very interesting balance of not letting the study kill the love of it. You know? And being able to unlock some things where. And I think it's also like keeping things in mind where it's like you can't take everything so seriously.
Sure.
Right. So it really does
Yeah.
have a lot to do with the like theory. To me, is
Mm-hmm.
a really good example of that. Like music theory is something that you can definitely nerd out about, and it's like really fun to think about.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also very technical, and like writing just from a theoretical standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Pulls out a lot of emotion or realness. But like your intention is always going to get in there because
Sure.
you can't help it.
Right.
But as far as really being able to incite or excite the particles around it, it has to be able to kind of meld the two of like you may or may not know what you're doing, and you may be able to explain it, but
Right.
really,
or it might even explain to you that's why the last one worked and this one isn't.
so often that's the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Each work or everything being tied together from a creative work standpoint is very noticeable, I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very
Yeah.
informative.
So tell me about like when you meet. How do you guys click? There must be something where
Yeah, we
there's like, we should make music together.
we met because of my buddy Paul. Like I said, our buddy Paul.
And you're already Montana, or does it really
because
hit
of
in-
Paul, I'm
There
Montana.
you go.
I was introduced to Max as
Montana? Got it.
That's
Okay.
right. And we met in the cafeteria, the CAF.
So when did he learn your real name? Was it long after that?
I don't even know.
I don't know,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
Montana.
it's only recently that he started using Avery as well, but it's mostly Montana. It's really.
I love it.
Yeah,
It's such
so
a
fun.
it is kind of a badass name.
Thank
it makes
you,
It sound
yeah.
like you're like in a cowboy Back to the Hat.
Definitely, yeah, right, exactly.
Like you're
yeah.
in a card game somewhere in a fancy, Tombstone, Arizona or something.
Yeah, right. As a Montanan, I definitely feel honored to carry the name.
Sure.
And I'm trying,
Yeah. That's a
So,
big state on your shoulders.
It is, yeah, one of the biggest. So we met in the cafeteria and then started just busking, like Max and
Sure.
our buddy Dylan McCarthy.
On
who's-
Newbury Street.
On Newbury Street,
Yeah.
And our buddy Dylan, who he's down in Colorado, he's killing it. And so they were playing a lot, and then him and the three of them with Paul were playing a lot, and then started inviting me out to play the fiddle.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jordan joined in, and because Jordan and I were picking a lot together, and
Right.
And we were in a different band together for a while, and just kind of getting this feel where we were just having a lot of fun. And then Sasha came around, we became friends. Max and Sasha had known each other
Sure.
for a long time. At that point, long time, most of the semester, and yeah, Max convinced Sasha to rent a bass and learn the bass for the band. So
That's amazing.
Sasha.
Because like from what I understood, like she was just, I don't mean to say it this way, just a singer.
Yeah, definitely.
And so to be like, by the way, you're going to pick up this thing that's taller than you.
Yep. Yeah.
And learning how to play, again, a fretless instrument.
Yep.
And a bass.
Right.
And sing is like, that's insane.
Absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get into Sasha first, because
Yeah.
we'll come back to that point.
Cool.
This is a good transition point. Max loves to surf.
Yep.
And so, from what I understood, there were plenty of times that he's like, I'm going to go surfing, which leaves you and Sasha to have some time and bond, like I guess as musicians, as songwriters, or what have you. And so I think that's a kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
Because they're a couple. So like,
Right.
obviously there'd be these, they're spending plenty of time together.
Yes.
But you need to have a trusting dynamic between all three musicians.
Definitely, yeah.
And so this allowed that happen for you two, because it allowed you to have those moments.
For sure. Yeah. And it's fun. We all hang out independently of each other.
Right.
And it's beautiful. But we also spend a lot of time, the three of us, like not even just for the band. We also
That's
hang
fun.
out a lot.
That's fun.
and,
You can tell. Like, you can tell there is a joy between the three of you
Yeah.
that transcends, I'm just on stage together.
Totally.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's not just a job.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned this before. Sasha's from Philadelphia, which is cool for us and then she even went to Muhlenberg College, which is like really close to where we are.
Yep.
So right there, Lehigh Valley, and she started singing at a young age. I guess her dad had a klezmer band. So that is Ashkenazi Jewish folk music. I think that's what it is.
It's definitely Jewish folk music.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
I might have
where
something wrong.
it was. Yeah, but they gigged a lot for a long time, and so she got to tour with that band.
Oh, fun.
And stuff. So all of us have had like little tastes of touring.
Yeah.
In our growing
In the
up.
early years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think it's like partly why we all were inclined to agree to start touring the country and the world and all that stuff. So it's really still going strong.
So when she goes to Muhlenberg College, that's for musical theater. She likes the music, singing. She doesn't love the theater.
Right.
And so she wants to transfer out of there.
Right.
Goes to Berkeley for music therapy. Because she was also, I think, if I remember right, studying either psychology or something like that.
I believe it's psychology.
Yeah. So she combines the two to do music therapy.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Absolutely.
We've had people on that talk about that. I wish I could ask her more questions about that.
Yeah.
But this music therapy really does some special things.
Yes.
So that's very, very cool. And then we get to this point. So she didn't learn the bass. She was a singer.
Yeah.
Studying music therapy. And then Max convinces her, you have to be in this band, but we need you to play bass.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like she was like singing some. She would like sit in with us busking and start singing, and we were like, "Wow, this is awesome! You're so good!" And we just like all loved playing so much together. And then when she started picking up the bass, we actually ended up getting a great gig in Salem, Mass. Every Thursday night, we would play for like 3 hours at this bar called the Village Tavern.
Shout out to the Village
Shout out
Tavern.
to the Village Tavern and
You put damn tall
that original
buildings.
crew for helping us cut our teeth. And we did. We went through like different sound setups and how we did a lot of experimentation live early on, and before we ever recorded anything.
Yeah, because you're probably like, well, shit, let's see how this sounds.
Absolutely.
And see what the crowd thinks of it.
All of it has been very natural in that way.
Yeah. And so we talked about it a little bit there, that it's very hard to play any percussive instrument or rhythm instrument and sing at the same time. So her to learn the bass, she actually had stopped singing for a certain part. So a lot of your early recorded music she was not singing on because she was focused on playing the bass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But a stunning voice, so that was like
Absolutely.
a missed opportunity. You knew you wanted to get back to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely was one of the early goals to be able to bring those levels up to the same, and now she just slays both.
She totally
so
does.
Good.
Yeah.
So.
And we'll play some examples of that in a second. And what's funny too is we talked about this a little bit, but again, bringing these things in together, Max's songwriting style is this word dense, almost speak sing kind of element, and she's sitting there with her pretty voice going like, that's not how, like, so she's like, we got to write different styles of music. I don't, but she obviously does these like 2 or even 3-part harmony bump moments.
Yeah.
But then when she wanted to sing, she needed it to be lyrically different. So she started writing, you started writing, like there's different elements to it where it's just like, from what I could tell, and again, it didn't make sense until I heard it spoken about, that it was like his songwriting style of that dense words wasn't going to fit her voice as well.
Right. It is interesting how different patter and different rhythmic patterns suit different voices and stuff.
Certainly.
Like, and depending on the range and everything too. So like when Sasha's singing lead, a lot of the melodies and stuff are like perfectly set in her range.
Right.
To be able to, you want to hear the notes.
Correct.
So a lot of that's cool because.
And I think if you like, and I'll edit these together real quick for the audience. But like if you take a song like Lemons.
All the lemons in the winter grow cold in the wintertime, and everything's feeling fine, cool and yellow. Don't it feel good? All the moon and the sunshine, saw that you can blink twice just to say hello. In the treetops, listen, got caught in a rain cloud, getting pretty cold out and misplaced my jacket full of storm. When the sun hits, lights up your eyelids, dark days coming, but thinking I could hack such a bright morning all green and blue. She said I could feel God in the soles of my shoes.
And it's like the very dense Max type song, and you take Patio.
Right.
Sun flare in your eyes, for you saw it coming. Fresh tracks cross my mind, could see my thoughts were running. Late night, mid-July, last I got to thinking. Hung up, left to dry, caught right on the ceiling. But it all keeps coming round, oh, daffodils, rose petals, sunshine slipping in on the patio at your mother's house.
Which is this gorgeous ballad.
Totally.
I just think that shows this range that then the band has by these 2 different people, and you would never want to take this voice and put it in this one, or vice versa.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I would say that those 2 songs are a great example of Max in particular, because Max is our primary songwriter.
Sure.
And like our collaboration on that has been really wonderful to be able to, iron sharpening iron kind of vibe of that. Like, because he wrote both of those songs. So that's a beautiful example of being able to stay true to that sound, that like you're just still being honest with what you're writing.
Yep. The way I kind of view it is, if he was the songwriter, a painter, and he was painting all these songs with just 2 colors, and then suddenly this was a 3rd one, you're like, oh my gosh, watch what I can do now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. For all of us, I feel like that's true, and that's why I think we've done more co-writing in recent times, and more these days, is because we all feel more like trusting in the colors that we have to add to things.
Sure,
yeah.
So if I understand it right, Sasha, getting into songwriting a little bit more recently, wrote the song Podcast. Okay. And so I just thought it's probably a rite of passage for anybody who has a podcast that has you on as a guest. We probably should play a little bit of that song.
I love it.
So let's bring that up here.
All right.
Yeah, throw that on. And this will give people an example of the live performance.
Yeah.
obviously that your podcast sucks moment is hilarious.
Yeah.
And I just always like, I was like, well, obviously I got to do it. Then of course everyone else does it too. But I said, rite of passage.
It's the right. I agree. I totally love it. And that was really fun. That came together during the recording of that record, Sleeping Dogs, where Sash had that, like the first maybe 2 verses, and I think a different chorus. I can't remember exactly, but. That we were recording in Margate, New Jersey, and we took a break and went out on the beach, and Sasha and I started going back and forth on it, and finished a lot of it, and I believe Max came up with the chorus, and like the 3 of us really, it was a really great, like, here's this idea, and then we all found where it is together. So that was probably the most co-written song.
Oh, that's fun.
On that record.
Yeah.
So,
and I think too, like it embraces this, a lot of your songs have these like vocal, using your voice, not with lyrics.
Right. Right.
Happens a lot in a Damn Tall Building song.
Agreed, yeah.
It's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of share that one there. So now you're out of college, you're forming this band, you're like, we're all like, kind of like heading down the road here.
Yeah.
Is there a moment where like it's just, again, you're in the pocket as a band, like you just know this is you're in the right lane, if you will?
I would say that probably 4 years in maybe was the first like hump of being like, okay, well, I mean, even like within our first year, there are always these micro humps of like kind of being like, all right, well, do I still want to do this? Yes, I'm committed. No, I still, like keep going on that path, and then. But yeah, once we started hitting more of the country touring and making more records, we definitely those are the kind of moments where you start looking back and you're like, oh, this is real. Like this is a thing that we really have been putting this into the world, and it feels so good to do that. So so 12 years later now. Here we are. Amazing. Continuing on, making a new record right, as we speak.
That's right. Yeah. I saw that. People, we'll kind of link to that because you are incredibly important. It's in here. To independent, DIY, no label. You do the recording in your own studio, which allows you to obviously save that cost, but also take the time you want. But
so true.
Flip side being, it is somewhat self-funded, and it's not. Right. It doesn't go through. What is it, crowdfunding or crowdsource or whatever those, because they take such a cut.
Right, we've done that before.
And you detail that on your site in a beautiful way. So we'll link to that.
Cool.
But anybody who is inclined, who wants to support the effort, there's ways to make a donation, and no amount is too small. Like whatever people are feeling, motivated or inclined to do. Like this is the way to support an artist. Like this is a way to make sure that they are kind of hearing you, voting with your dollars, if you will. That I like your music. So if you like Damn Tall Buildings, streaming ain't cutting it.
Right.
We talk about that all the time on this show, that you have to buy merch straight from the band, sign up for Patreon, buy the tickets to the show in advance. And then this is a new way. Like if you're putting it out there that you're saying, hey, we want to put an album together and you can help.
Yeah.
What better way to say I love your music and I'm behind you.
Totally. And we've been blessed so much with that exact response too, and continue to be so. And it's just great. Getting to go directly. It's in its own little coffer, and it's like, all right, wonderful. We hit this limit just at the perfect timing, and then we get to like pay people. And,
sure. Right,
it's
absolutely.
Like, it's a good thing. It's really, it's awesome. So.
But it's almost like the way that maybe it worked in the like Renaissance, where it was like, I like this artist and I'm going to fund them.
Right.
This is yet that kind of like same concept, just in 2020s.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you get there. I mean, this is just such amazing music. Like, this is one of the ones where it's like, I'm going to bring up the song here that we've already played, but it's killing me because there's probably 15 songs I want to bring up. I love so much of your music.
I appreciate that.
But so because there's a point to this. I'm trying to kind of share a story or to encourage people again. Like, and I couldn't find the right words for this. So when you listen to What a Nice Life, in the beginning was the recorded version. And it has almost like a swing to it. Like it has this groove, and you could just simply like see yourself on a beach with a Corona, just listen to this song and enjoying life.
Yeah.
But when you hear it live, that I think what happens is this energy of the crowd and the performance starts to kick in. And I don't know that it speeds up compared to the recording, but it feels that way.
It might, yeah.
It feels faster
Yeah.
and more urgent,
Yeah.
and it feels like it's almost like this band is going to they're just dying to get this song out of them for you to listen. And it's just a joy to watch, because again, like, you're all loving it, but I don't know how you get the air back in to get the next point out. But let's bring up, there's this live version of What a Nice Life.
Yeah.
So let's take a listen to this.
All right.
Oh, what a nice life we once had. Moon hit the sun, life for living's been drag. But just like a feeling there at home, a fractured clip of great abyss blowing air back in your lungs. Heard you out there singing, can't be sure. Well, I heard the breath you're breathing right back to where you were, where that cool breeze blowing kept you high. And I swear I saw a sunshine little shimmer in your eye. Not sure who I've been lately, pretty sure your mother hates me.
So I mean, like, just so much fun watching that, and you can see, like, Max is like, he's not struggling, but like, I gotta get this out, and I got a lot more to say after it.
Oh yeah, yep, absolutely.
And I think maybe that's what it is. It's like the recording sounds almost not relaxed, but calm. Whereas this, you're seeing this different kind of energy, and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe he's still doing it.
Totally.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you're having so much fun. Like, again, that joy of watching you perform, the whole kinetic body,
Thanks,
you know,
yeah.
into it, and the chucking and everything. Like, it's just such a. I got to imagine also maybe two performances aren't even the same. Like, there's some freedom
Very
there.
rarely,
Right.
yeah. I'd say that this is a great song for what we were talking about before with the microgravity.
Yeah.
Of like that, this pulse and this kind of pocket of the song is so bouncy. It's got that like
Yeah.
chicka, 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 chicka,
Yeah.
chicka, chicka. You know, it's like got that kind of delay. And in the recording during the fiddle breakdown, there is like a fun little production space that is in there. That's really fun. That like I think about that when I play it.
Right. How about this?
Exactly. Yeah. So, and then if whoever's running in front of house tends to have a lot of fun with like reverb or delay at that point
Sure.
too sometimes. So that's always fun because that's like especially if they've heard the record, they're like, oh, I could play with this. So
Yeah.
that's fun. But,
So one other element I wanted to touch on was the fact that you guys got to travel to Ethiopia with the State Department.
yes.
And not only how cool of a story that probably is,
Mm-hmm.
but you made a friend there, Hadinko.
Hadinko, yeah.
Hadinko.
Yeah.
And so if you could touch on just that whole opportunity, what it was like to be there, and then this particular, because I actually have the song.
Cool.
What is it?
Lagasse Abdi.
Yeah, so I have it here. We can play it in a second, but tell us about how did the opportunity find you?
Sure. So there are a handful of nonprofit organizations that help are contracted by the State Department to program like arts envoy
Sure.
and like cultural exchange kind of things and cultural diplomacy across the globe. And we had auditioned a few times actually for this one. Called American Music Abroad, and I think it was our third time maybe that we ended up, I think probably largely because we finally knew what we were doing. But it's funny how that works. It's good. It's always good to just go for it and you learn from everything.
Yeah.
The third time was the charm in this case, and we got accepted. We were really, really, it was wonderful. And then
So what part you went to Ethiopia?
so we went to
Yeah.
Ethiopia, and we stayed. A lot of the times, the envoy programs will go all around the country. In this case, it's pretty heavy civil war going on, so we were in the capital, Addis Ababa. But it was well received. We were well received, and the best part, of course, was getting to play with our buddy Haddis, who goes by Hadinko because he plays the masinko, which is a one-string instrument from the Oromo region. And he's awesome. And he, I as a fiddle player love overtones and messing with like the stuff that isn't just the note.
Right.
And the masinko is like so much that.
Right.
And,
Well, with one string.
yeah,
That's all you got.
And Haddis just does a masterful job of being able
That's so fun.
to really play it.
So should we play the song?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is your version of his song, or a traditional
This is
song?
Our version of his song.
Okay.
In the style of the traditional.
So Legace Abdi. On all three of you, like it's just so fun to watch you play and just put stuff like this on display.
It's so fun to be able to, you learn more about, especially with this kind of stuff, where we definitely are only just starting to steep ourselves more in, especially this region of Africa and the music from here, and like getting that feel, and then of course getting to really learn it through our relationship with Haddis that we built over those 10 days that we were there, and so we're putting this one on the next record actually.
Awesome.
And he'll be on it, and then a few of his bandmates
How
and stuff like that.
super cool is that?
Yeah, it's really
I can't wait.
so cool. It's cool, and like the pulse here is really interestingly very similar to old time music.
Yes.
A lot of it's just a 1, 2, 1, or even 1, 1, 1. It's like, and like it really is just kind of like this vibe where you can sink into it and play on it. So
yeah, and so not knowing it at the time, and I got lucky because I just record a song here and there. Such a beautiful track. Like I just captured it, and I was like, oh, this is different.
Yeah.
And you could just tell it was different. Like it was like that doesn't sound like everything else.
Yeah.
And so when I wrote to you, because I was sharing highlights from Musikfest, it's a show we do at the end of August. I did actually like a medley of 3 different songs of yours because it was so important to show this, kind of like tapestry.
Yeah.
And so I had that song. I was like, what is this one? I got you to tell me the backstory, and I was like, well, that explains it all because it's actually like African and
totally,
and it's such a cool story behind it, and to be part of like a, an outreach or an envoy or whatever, kind of like an ambassador of
absolutely,
music and the U.S., but also not in one direction.
Hugely
like bringing it back this way is just as important.
Encouraging, absolutely. It's like actual.
I think it's common for us
diplomacy.
To be like, let's get America everywhere.
I know, yeah.
Well, how about we?
It's gotta be both.
Let's remember what we
were
were built on. So, I just thought that was such a cool thing. I wanted to make sure we touched on. I'm so happy I caught that.
Me too.
Because again, like I said, like I just kind of pull it up, record, because I'm wanting to enjoy the music, not always behind a phone. And I'm just like, all right, I'll capture this one. And then I was like, oh, what is that? I couldn't wait to learn.
Totally.
That's very, very cool. And I can't wait to hear the recorded version.
Thanks. Yeah, it sounded fun.
That's
really
dynamite.
I'm psyched.
Any timeline on the music? I know it's like,
loose timeline.
Yeah.
We loose-ish. We're solidifying some things, but it's hard to talk about.
Sure,
so,
makes sense. But coming, and people can still support it.
Probably the late summer, early fall.
Okay. Because I didn't know it could still be 2 years away.
Oh we've been at it for enough time now. We have some stuff mastered already. So
nice.
Yeah, we'll probably start doing some singles before that.
Fun.
And
I know there's some tour coming up.
Yes.
So we'll link to that in the show notes, and obviously they can, most importantly, like follow you on Instagram and sign up for a newsletter, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's the other thing that's happening in the social media world is people are like getting controlled or throttled on what they see based on algorithms or whatever.
Yeah.
So newsletter is huge because you're definitely going to hear the news from the people you want to hear.
Absolutely.
So that's big. Again, we talked about Patreon. That's another one to kind of consider as well.
Yeah.
So definitely wanted to say thank you. Before we totally wrap, we always play a song from the band at the very end, and I love this song. It has such spirit to it, and it's very distinctly yours.
Thanks.
And I think that even just talk about the whole inspiration behind the whole thing, we're going to play Location at the end.
Cool. Yeah. I would say that in as few words as I could go on, I loved growing up in the mountains, and there is something really kind of ancient, going back to that ancient feeling in the mountains in particular, that has always then, like, going from there to New England, like we were talking about,
Right.
to the city, which in this case is Boston,
Mhm.
and especially as a young, like freshly 20-something, I was being put through the ringer,
Sure.
at least emotionally, if nothing
Yeah,
else.
for sure.
And
at a young age.
At a young age.
Very formative time.
Absolutely.
Right when you're trying to find your independence, like that's right in that pocket of college years.
Totally.
Let me figure out who I am and how I'm going to stand on my own 2 feet.
Absolutely.
And that's a massive paradigm shift that you have to go through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then so this this came from our very first Damn Tall Buildings tour, 6 weeks, all the way across the country and back. And glad we did it while we were young.
Yeah.
6 weeks is tough. All in a
I'm
van,
sure.
It's like you gotta
Yeah.
gotta be good to your body.
Yeah. Right.
But it was super formative because then like coming back and feeling that like crash after being on the high of the road of just
Yep.
being like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
And then processing all of that information, I had stopped playing the fiddle for a little bit, and I picked up a mandolin, which I, especially at that time, was not great at. A little bit better now,
Right.
but I,
Right.
but I was just like playing, and I found some chords, and this song just came to me.
Right.
And it was definitely a distillation of just like similar to that moment when I decided to play a show
Sure.
in Farewell, where I just kind of let go. It's just like, all right, well,
That's fantastic.
let's see what it is,
Yeah. It kind of has some of that same spirit to it, where
Definitely.
it feels old.
Yeah.
Even though it was written like yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
And to capture that as a musician must be, again, you're like, okay, I was a conduit for this.
Yeah.
Like it came through me. It wasn't necessarily in me.
My-
I grabbed it from somewhere else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My favorite stuff is always, of anyone, myself or otherwise, is always that, like, oh, there's something other than just me in this, This is awesome.
I do love that. Yeah. It's definitely one of those ones where when I often am prepping for Musikfest or an interview, I just have the music on shuffle. And that's one of those songs where you're just playing, and then you might be doing dishes or taxes or whatever, and you're just like, wait, what's that? Let me go back and start that one from the beginning.
Oh,
and that's
that's
definitely
great.
one of those types of songs.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So yeah, I can't wait to share it here at the end.
Heck yeah.
But Avery, thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
all of
you.
your awesome stories and just incredible music that I hope more and more people take a listen to. And can't wait to see you guys play again.
Hey, thanks so much. Appreciate it, Phil.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So there you have conversation with Avery Ballotta, Damn Tall Buildings. Jeff Wentz, what'd you think?
Well, I had to go get my Big Sky Montana hat while we were watching.
Perfect.
I just grabbed it, throw it on. So yeah,
Yes.
I thought it was a great interview. I mean, just really getting into the details there, and to think that a kid from Montana would have those kind of influences. First off, I don't think I would have ever thought that, and then to have those influences move him in the direction for the type of music they are creating, is just really kind of cool.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
really neat.
and when I pre-record it and then I can just sit here and enjoy it
Yeah.
like a viewer, I'm just always in awe that these people who are so talented and so just I'm a fan of theirs, and then there they are talking to me. It still was a pinch me kind of thing. But they're always so cool about it. They're just normal people who want to have cool conversations, and I just like to give them a platform to share their stories and their music. And it just still blows me away, even though we'll be 3 years in June. It's just every time I'm just always just this is so cool. I'm so thankful for their humility to come on some Knuckleheads podcast and then to dive deep for an hour, just talking about.
And we've had that conversation before several times, and that's what makes what you're doing is so interesting and fascinating to me. Is having had a little taste of that when I was in college and meeting musicians and in various concerts, and getting to have those one-on-one conversations with them as someone who truly appreciates what they do and the effort behind it, and not as a fan. Not that we're not fans of their music, but you're not fanatical. You're not.
Sure.
It's just not. Oh my gosh, it's somebody famous. Oh my gosh, it's somebody that music that I like. It's just having that appreciation. When you get that opportunity to sit down and talk with them about it, it's even more fascinating. You're like, yeah, this is just such a down to earth individual, and to
Exactly.
hear what they're doing and to hear their stories, it's just so cool.
It is. It is super cool. So one quick thing I wanted to do was share their site. And so if you go to damntallbuildings.com, you can pull up. This is that tab here. It's DTV's next album. This is where you can learn more of the details around it, and like we talked about in there, kind of put funds behind it if if it is something you're interested and inclined to do. It doesn't have to be large amounts. Every little bit counts, and it means so much because it's going straight to them and to support them in those efforts. Also, I figured I'd point out tour dates for wherever you might be. What's interesting is they are about to embark. I believe it's their first time headed to Europe. So this coming week and next, they are in Louisiana, New Jersey, New York. They're going to be in Geneseo. That's where I went to college. How about it? How about that? But then they're going to the UK, but then they're back here. So anyway, it's just again a live performance, as we tried to kind of paint a picture there during the interview, is just that much better than the recorded stuff. So definitely check out the recorded stuff. But then if you get a chance to see them perform live and they're going to be near you, do not miss it.
Absolutely.
But and then also definitely stick around, like we talked about it towards the end there. There's a song called Location that Avery actually wrote, and it is stunning. So be sure to stick around for that. Jeff, thank you so much for co-hosting.
Thanks for having me, man.
Right, Phil, let's say goodbye to everybody.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Your Next Favorite Band. We'd like to sincerely thank Damn Tall Buildings, especially Avery Ballotta, but also Max and Sasha for allowing us to shine a light on their brilliant music. And thank you for the various stories and diving into the inspirations and different ways that we can enjoy the outstanding music that was being presented, and we will be sharing links to many of their different platforms, whether it's Spotify, YouTube, Bandcamp. We try to link to all of that good stuff, as well as many of the different other stories that we touched on while we were chatting. And thank you also to Jeff for joining to co-host this episode with us. As always, our hope here is to bring you your next favorite band. If you happen to tune in tonight because you already knew Damn Tall Buildings or Avery, then thank you very much. We hope you like what you heard and what you saw, and you might be interested in subscribing to our channel, whether it be the YouTube video version or any of the podcast platforms to listen to the audio episodes coming up. Or perhaps your next favorite band might already be out there. We do have over 150 episodes at nextfaveband.com. You can go and search for different things there, or you can reach out to us. We love that, and we might be able to help guide you to an episode or two to check out based on just telling us kind of what genres you're typically into, and we can steer you in the right direction. Or just pick one at random, and hopefully you like it. Hope to see you at a live show soon. And here, one more track from Damn Tall Buildings. Here is Location.
This one's called Location. And I certainly appreciate y'all being here at one of our homes. Well, I think I'll move to the city. Let it take me by the hand. Let it put me through the ringer like only the city can. I'll meet some nice old folkie, sing the saddest songs I know. I think I'll move to the city if there's nowhere else to go.
I miss the mountains, you know, the ones that lift you up. High above the city and high above the muck. Well, a fiddle keeps me company, cheap whiskey, a little smoke. I think I'll move to the mountains before I get too old. Well, the ocean calls my name, Lord, yes, it rushes like my soul. Deep in mysteries and our histories, deep in its fold. Well, doesn't tire of kissing the same spit of sound. I think I'll move to the ocean to try and figure out who I am. Well, to rest and to root. This is all well and good, but I start missing the others way more than I should. Like that city, I'll hold you, like the mountains lift you up. And like that